Hey guys, what's going on? Derek is back. Sorry. Derek is back with another Pod HD500 video. I'm going through the amp models to hear what they each sound like, and we're at the fourth one, the fourth offering from line 6. This is the Supero. Yeah, I just wanted to say that. Anyway, so this is a Supero S6616. Okay, I know absolutely nothing about this amp. I'm wanting to say I heard in another pod video that Jimmy Page might have used this amp, and it might be an amp that everyone used because I know it's a smaller amp, and I do know that in the studio, if you use a smaller amp, obviously you get the benefits of having low volume, and you can control the volume, but you can get a real big tube sound depending on how you mic it. Again, extremely low volumes, and so it's cool. It's a good studio amp, and I like the amp model. I don't know if I like the real amp, but I like the amp model. So same setup as the other videos, the 2x12 PhD ported Dr. Z cab with the SM57 on axis with the room all the way down, master all the way up, sag at 50, hum all the way down, bias and bias excursion at 50%. The low cut is at 0, and the thump is all the way up, and res, level, and decay are at 50. This is a pretty dark sounding amp, so I have the tone, treble, and presence full up, and the bass is down a little bit below 50, and I have the drive down pretty low. It's a very warm and very fat sounding amp, and I tend to go for the brighter sound, but this thing, and it does do a great bright sound, but let's just mess around with it and see what all this amp can do. So I'm playing my Variax 300, running through the VDI connection of the pod, running straight into my mixing desk, going straight to your earbuds or your speakers or your laptop, whatever. And the EQ is set flat on the mixer, so you're hearing just a flat signal, just running straight through to the video. So it's as clean of a sound as possible, or at least as unaltered as possible. So when you download this patch, which you can do, and I will post a link to this on my in the info box. When you download this patch, this can be pretty close to what I have here. Of course, you're going to sound different than I will because we're different people. We have different guitars, and our fingers have different sounds. Most of the tone comes in the fingers, but granted, you'll still be able to get a good idea of how this amp sounds, hopefully, from this video. So, without further ado, let's get started. Here's the Spank model, which I'm going to be on for most of the video. I will go to the Telly and the Les Paul sound, and this has been factory reset. So I have a stock Strat, just the basic Strat sound, a basic Telly, and a basic Les Paul sound. And we'll hear that later on, but let's just start with a Strat and kind of talk about some stuff. So anyway. Might turn that reverb down a little bit. I usually like reverb, but this is just a little bit much. Much better. Very dynamic sound, with the drive at 26 and the master all the way up. Now, I didn't read the manual, but I did read the manual when I had the Pod XT and the X3 Live. And on these small amp models that usually only had like volume and tone knobs, which I think the Supero does, because it has a tone knob on the where it usually is the mid-range control. It's a tone control. That might just be a difference in name, but usually the treble and the presence and the bass, because the original amp may not have had it. Again, I don't know for sure. You can inform me in the info box if it did, or in the comments section. I mean, if they did, but they kind of added that so you can have more tonal flexibility than if you would on the regular amp. So I don't know. Sounds pretty good. It may sound nothing like the real amp, but I like it. So let's hear it with all the different pickups in the Strat. So I kind of went out of order of how I usually do it. I usually will test the different gain stages before I go through all the different sounds. But anyway, let's just listen to the gain stages now. Sounds, the earlier demos with the gain on like 25. Here is on 50. And on this amp, as you increase the drive, you might want to decrease the bass because it tends to get a little flubby. But it also does fatten up as you turn up the drive, which may be desirable for some people. All right, let's try the drive on 75. I'm just going to turn the bass off. Like I said, this is a pretty dark sounding amplifier. Hear it at 100. So very, very bassy and very, I hate to say muddy, but it is kind of muddy sounding. I'm just going to take it back down to, I'm going to put it at 30. Give it a little bit more grind. Turn that bass back up because now we actually need it. Turn it up a little bit more. That daggum guitar keeps coming unplugged. I'm not using a VDI cable right now. I'm just using a standard Cat 5 cable, and the little plastic thing. I don't know any technical terms, but the little plastic thing that usually when it hooks into the jack and locks into place. Yeah, I don't have that. So it keeps falling out sometimes if I move around a lot, which I do. So, cool sounding amp. Pretty neat. You already heard all the Strat pickups, so let me go ahead and go to the Telly sound and hear how that sounds. Here's the Telly and the neck and the bridge position. And the Telly and the bridge position. I don't care if that's supposed to be played on a Vox. I'm playing it on a Supero. So, anyway, here's the Les Paul in the bridge position. In the neck and bridge position on the Les Paul. And because I think I've heard, I don't know for sure, but I think I've heard this, that Led Zeppelin actually, or Jimmy Page actually played on a Supero. I'll play one of the few Jimmy Page riffs I know. Okay, I don't know if I played that right or not. I'm not that big of a Jimmy Page fan. Sorry. So I don't know many of his licks, but I do know that one. So here's the Les Paul in the neck position. That's the same key I played in the Fender Twin video. I'm doing a different one. So nice sounding amp. And with this being a Supero, the way I've got it set up, it's not a huge sounding amp. It's not as big as a high watt like I did in the last video. It's not as big sounding. But if you were to put reverb and delay on that, and in a band situation, this is a great sounding amp model in a band. I used it this weekend. It sounded pretty well. It sounded pretty good. I didn't tweak it much from this. Actually, it sounds better now than it did then, but it still sounded good in the when I did it in church this morning. So, it's not a big amp, so you're not going to get a huge tone out of it, but it does have a purpose. It has a place, and it does its thing really well. So are you guys ready to hear what the amp parameters do? Because I know I sure am. So the master control. This amp probably didn't have a master volume, so I'm actually going to assume that doesn't. So I would guess that if the drive's on 30, then the master would be on 30 or something about like that. But I'm not a vintage buff. I don't care if it's working like the original amp. I just care if it sounds good. So here's the master at 50. And at 70. Come on now. And at full blast. So that's what the master control does. Let's mess with the sag. This is a vintage style amp, so towards the right would probably be right. Yeah, I just said it. It would probably be the correct way of running this amp. But let's break the rules. Here it is at 50. Let's drop it down to 0. Let me try to clean that up. Now let's hear it at 100. Now, believe it or not, I'm actually not trying to make a joke right now, but I'm more used to digital units than I am an actual tube amp, so sag to me sounds like lag. Like, you know, when you're playing through like a really crappy multi-effects or a really crappy amp modeler, and it has a slight, like half of a millisecond worth of delay, and it's just enough to drive you up a wall. That's kind of what the sag control is doing for me. That might just be because the pod's not emulating that well. I don't really care. I mean, what they have sounds great, but to me, with the sag all the way at 100, that's kind of what it sounds like to me. Like it's almost like a little bit of a lag to it. So you tube amp guys who might be used to a Supero or something, or are familiar with sag, you might like that. But for me, I prefer to keep it around 50. I might do it slightly past 50 though. Maybe a little less than 50. Maybe a little bit more towards the modern side. So, pretty cool. Let's hear the home control. Ain't that Birdimus? They basically put what makes your sound man want to kill you in knob form. So you turn a knob, and it's like a suicide note. Your sound man will shoot you. If not your sound man, it'll be your other bandmates. I honestly don't know why they put that in there. I don't know any band member who would hear that and say, like, I don't imagine a bass player going up to you like, man, dude, that sucker hums just like a real Supero. That's awesome. They're going to be more like, man, now even the amp models hum. I thought they would fix that. Probably. Who knows? Some guys might like it. I don't find much use for it, but so I just leave it down on 0 and I'll just shut up about it. Whatever. No, I ain't gonna shut up. I'm just gonna keep talking about it. This is a review and demo, so I feel like I feel free. I've given myself the freedom to feel free to let you know my opinion. My opinion, the hum knob, I don't like it. But if you do, more power to you. It's great if you're trying to emulate like an old amp, like an old cheapy amp or something like that. That something about it being 50 years old makes it amazing now. It sounded just as bad now as it did then, but now that it's vintage, it suddenly sounds good. If you're into that, I'm not making fun of you. If you're literally into that, great. Then you'll love that, but I'm not, so I won't mess with it. But again, you can download this patch. I'll have a link to it in the info box. Turn that home control up if you want it to be like a real old vintage amp. And I will support you because I'm all about people making the sounds that they want to make and making the music they want to make. So this is a no judgment zone. So oh my goodness. Let's go to the bias control now. I don't know why that cracks me up, but let's go to the bias control. And you've been hearing it all this time at 50, but one more quick demo. Now it's here at 0. I'm actually not a fan of that, but whatever. Here it is at 100. I actually like it at 100, so I'm going to leave it there. Bias excursion, 50%. Zero. Hear the bias excursion on 100. It never fails. If I like the bias high, I like the bias excursion low for whatever reason. Maybe it's supposed to be like that. I don't know. So I'm just going to leave that 0. It sounds fine. The low cut. I don't know why you would need this on this particular amp, but well, actually, yeah. These lower wattage amps, these smaller amps, don't sound great when you try to put a guitar with a lot of bass through them. So here's the Les Paul model. It's not the bassiest model on here, since I'm only going to use the 3 for the purpose of this video, but it's the bassiest of the 3 that I use. So here's the Les Paul model through the Supero. So if that's a little bit too bassy for you, you might turn that to 140. So, I mean, that's useful if you've got a extended range, down-tuned, or 7-string guitar. That could come in handy. The resonance level. This actually might come in handy on this particular sound to make it sound bigger. As I said in the last video, when you have it at 0, it kind of, to me, sounds a little bit isolated, like maybe you have some plexiglass around it. Or like it's in another room, maybe. Here it is at 50, which is what you've been hearing through the whole video. But you can hear it again. And here it is at 100. Cover your ears, it gets loud. So I don't like it at 100, but I might turn it up to 60. I find it makes it sound just a little bit bigger. I might turn the bass up too. Why didn't I do that sooner? I like that. Like I said, I'm discovering all this stuff with you. I don't rehearse this stuff, as you can very well tell. The decay. I'm not going to go through the decay because I frankly don't hear a difference. If you do, great. Tweak it. But me personally, it might be something I'm doing wrong, but I'm not really hearing a huge difference. So I kind of like where the amp is now. Might go and turn that res level back to 50. See how that sounds. Then we'll mess with some distortion. And so. Alright, let's mess with some overdrive pedals. I bet this thing handles distortion fairly well. You think? Well, let's find out. So here's the boost comp, which is supposed to be almost like a second channel to it. It's like it's turning the gain up. But let's just hear how it sounds. See, that is a great sound to use in a recording environment or with a band because it just sits just right in the mix. I'm going to turn that compressor up and see what it does for the sound then. Might turn that drive down though while cranking the output all the way up. Make sure we're not at unity gain because I want it to boost it, hence the name. Do it just a little bit more, goose that up a little. Might turn that compressor down. I don't really like it to compress quite that much. Might goose the drive up just a little bit more. Let's hear it. That makes it just big enough for like a solo. I don't use that as a solo boost, but that does make that amp just a little bit better for soloing. Turn that drive down just a little bit. I'm not even going to test it. I'm just going to turn it down a little bit. Nah, I might as well. Yeah, that makes it fat, just fat enough to sound big, but not so much to where it doesn't cut through in a soloing situation. Let's hear it with a tube screamer and mess around with some other pedals. I like that. I don't even know if I want to try anymore, but I'm doing this for y'all, not for me so much. So there's with the tube driver, the DOD. Alright, that's enough of that. The classic distortion. Turn that filter all the way up. Oh well. I really like the tube screamer with this one, but I'll tweak that after that. Then I'll upload it to custom tone so y'all can download that. Anyway, guys, that's it for this episode of Line 6 Pod HD500 amp models. This was the Supero S6616. It sounds pretty good. This is the Supero amp model, and take it, download it, and tweak it to match your guitar, and see if you can't get a good sound out of it. I think it sounds great. I have no real big complaints about it if you tweak it right. So, anyway, thank you guys for watching. Be watching for some more videos in the future. Feel free to rate, comment, subscribe, and again, thanks for watching, and God bless you.